Hi everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids, and in today's video we're talking about 5 champions that I think you should really consider taking out of your vault and building up. 5 champions which are really starting to excel in the hardest content in the game, right? So Hydra, which has just come out, Doom Tower Hard, Arena. These are champions that are well worth considering that really fly under the radar. And hey, you know, I think it's 2 times chances from Ancient Shards this weekend. I won't be pulling, but you know, maybe I'll actually set up a community post or a thing on my Discord, and we can maybe do some viewer shard pulls. We will see. But you might pull some of these champions at the weekend, and don't be disappointed if you do. You should actually be really excited. So let's talk about the first champion here, and this one goes out to Grat. Grat is one of my one of the viewers, one of the first subs on the channel. He's a friend from the first clan I was in Raid. I guess actually maybe the second or third clan I was in Raid. The clan I was in for most of my Raid time playing. It's Shamrock. Shamrock was the 3rd legendary I ever pulled. And I thought, this guy sucks. I know my girlfriend pulled him recently as well, and her reaction was, he sucks. You know, we are Irish, so you know, you see this dude, and he's like the stereotypical leprechaun, and you go, oh no, this is awful. You know, it's like my least favorite genre of YouTube video is legit Irish accent, real Irish accent, because they're always shit. They're always wrong. Oh, I watched one recently with some English actor, and it was terrible. Oh, it was the worst. Anyway. Let's dive into Shamrock. What does he do? First of all, he's got amazing base stats. Look at that. 111 base speed. Awesome. Nice, solid, tanky stats there. 20k HP. Actually, has a good chunk of resistance, which is great because this guy excels in the Hydra clan boss. Really good for that. Really, really good. What does he do? Oh, he, by the way, also has a 70 accuracy in all battles aura, which is amazing for Doom Tower hard progression. And yeah, also for Hydra, where you do have to start hitting, especially in Doom Tower, those high accuracy thresholds. That can be very hard to hit on a newer account for sure. It takes a long time to build that up on your account in the Great Hall. These sorts of auras are fantastic, so this is really good. So what does he do? Well, if you guys watch my Mistakes in Hydra video, which I'm ironically recording after this one, but you guys will see it first. I'm going to publish it before this one. I actually think that speed and speed control, speed manipulation is one of the most important things to bring to Hydra. So you can keep on top of it, keep ahead of the boss, control their buffs, and that's how you start to do really well. Lucky Charms is A2, 3 turn cooldown when it's booked. This gives you 60% increased defense on all allies for 2 turns. Nice. Now, if your allies are above 50% HP, he'll give them 30% increased speed, and he has a 50-50 chance of giving them increased crit rate as well. That actually books up to a 70% chance. I think the crit rate is just sort of like this random bonus. That's not too important. Your damage dealers are going to have crit rate anyway. That's a nice little buff though for, you know, for your support champions. It's okay. The main thing though is he's coming in, he's giving you increased defense and increased speed. Those are 2 really good buffs. That is awesome. It's pretty much, it's actually a better version of what Shamrock does on her increased speed move, which is kind of fun. Now, if you're actually below 50% health on any ally, he still gives them the increased defense, but instead of speed and crit rate, he'll give them revive on death and has a 50, books up to 70% chance of putting a 50% continuous heal for 2 turns. This is actually very good then for keeping your champions, especially your squishy champions, alive. It's actually excellent. So yeah, this was a move that before Hydra was kind of a bit wonky. You know, what are we going to use revive on death for? That's a bit weird. But then we come into the Hydra clan boss and we want to have increased defense. We want increased speed. And then this for keeping those champions who are in danger alive. Really, really good. Now, as well as that, Uncatchable, his A3, 5 turn cooldown, only needs 1 book and books to a 4 turn cooldown. But, excuse me, choking. I'm okay. Puts a 30% decreased speed debuff on all enemies for 2 turns, decreases their turn meter by 15%, and fills the turn meter of all allies by 15% if any enemy's turn meter is below 50%. So this is a great move, obviously, for the arena as well. For Hydra, also fantastic. For Doom Tower, also fantastic. Because it's not an attack, it doesn't get affected by affinity. He will place this on all your enemies, which is great. For Doom Tower Arena, turn meter depletion is nice. It's small, but it's a nice bonus. for Hydra, you'll actually quite consistently trigger this, giving you some bonus turn meter, because very often one of those heads will be below 50% turn meter. So yeah, great move, right? Consistent source of decreased speed, goes through the poison cloud as well, which is really, really useful. So yeah, very, very good move. And then his A1 attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 60% chance of removing a random buff from the target. That books up to a 75% chance, so giving you very good buff removal on his A1 attack. Awesome. If a buff is removed, has a 35% books to 50% chance of stealing that buff. So yeah, Shamrock is really good. Very easy to build him to be quick, to be fast. He's giving your team really good buffs. Increased speed especially, and decreased speed on the enemy Hydra. Plus he's going to be stealing the increased attack off the Head of Wrath. If the Head of Mischief does ever steal your buffs, he's going to start stealing those back off the enemy team and removing them. In fact, with a 40 resistance, you can build him potentially with high resistance as well. His stats are so good that you can do that, and then he can start stealing buffs, which means he'll have more than the rest of your team. He gets targeted by Head of Mischief, and he can potentially start resisting Head of Mischief as well, stopping it getting your buffs, stopping it getting your turn meter. And yeah, you can just really start to pull ahead on Hydra. So I think he's really good. I'm building mine up right now. Yep, I'm building up. I guess it's appropriate. I'm probably going to publish actually this video on St. Patrick's Day. Oh my god. Destiny. It's Destiny. I didn't even realize that. That is amazing. Okay, so Shamrock, he is awesome. In a similar vein, let's jump over here to a champion who has been overshadowed by a login reward and some rares, and that is actually Golden Reaper. Yeah, a champion who's been very much overshadowed, but it's worth taking another look at her again. What does Golden Reaper do? Again, we can see she's got that really good base speed, 111. Really nice. Her base stats obviously not as good as Shamrock, but in a similar vein, like a slightly worse version of Shamrock. But she has this move, Alacrity, 3 turn cooldown, 30% increased speed on all allies, and boost their turn meter by 20%. This is basically a slightly upgraded version of Apothecary's speed boost, and a slightly upgraded version of Haikatoon's speed boost. And this was sort of her problem, is that, yeah, this is slightly better. You get 5% more turn meter compared to what those champions are doing. The issue is, though, that Apothecary also heals, which is very useful for that early game progression. And as a rare champion, it's much easier to get. You're probably going to get him before you get Golden Reaper. Haikatoon is a login reward for playing the game for 1 month, and she does something very similar. So that was sort of the problem with Golden Reaper. She's a void epic. By the time you get her, you probably have a champion that does something very similar. So what's the point in building her? Well, here's the point. Number 1, this is better than what they do, so that's good for Arena. She's just straight up better. She does bring you accuracy and faction crypts, not very useful, but her A1 and her A2 are really cool. So especially, again, for Hydra, Maelstrom, her A2, 4 turn cooldown, AoE attack, 50% chance to put decrease attack for 2 turns. That books up to 75%. So it's not a fully guaranteed decrease attack. However, what it does do, right, because she's void, it does give you a pretty consistent source of having decreased attack up sometimes. And really for Hydra, that's all you need. You really want it for Head of Wrath when he's going to start popping off with an increased attack buff, or when he's going to go into his vengeance mode. Apart from that, it's not super essential to have this up all the time, so this is a nice perk, and the fact that it is a bit unreliable, that it has a bit of a long cooldown, doesn't really hold her back that much. And then her A1 is really cool. Attacks one enemy, has a 30 bucks to a 50% chance of decreasing the cooldown of one of a random ally skills by 1 turn. This is, I think, what makes her a little bit special then for Hydra, because you come into Hydra and yeah, Apothecary, he's good, the healing is nice, but his A1 is not really doing too much. Haikatoon, her speed boost is nice, but apart from that, she's not really doing too much. Everything that Golden Reaper brings, though, is actually very useful. Really good speed boost, decrease attack with the AoE, and then decreasing a random skill by 1 turn. If this lands on a Geomancer, if this lands on a Royal Guard, this becomes incredibly powerful. I mean, even with supportive champions, you get this onto Rector Drath, you know, get her back to her perfect veil, her heal faster, awesome. Get Brogni's shields back up faster, whatever. There's so many possibilities for this, and it's a good chance you put her in like revenge accessories. By the way, advise that as well with Shamrock. Revenge accessories from the clan shop, which gives them a chance to counterattack because their A1s are so good, and you have so many of those Hydra heads hitting an AoE. You can proc this quite often, and it actually becomes a really nice move. Very cool. So yeah, Golden Reaper. I think she's the only epic I'm going to be talking about today. But yeah, she's one that slipped under the radar, and she's actually very good. By the way, while we're here, I will mention Mother Cybele. I've done so many videos on her already. I'm not going to talk about her, but if you haven't seen any of my Mother Cybele videos, you should go to watch them, because she is a champion a lot of people have in their vault that should not be in your vault anymore. No way. But I've talked about her before, so I'm not going to talk about her here today. Oh, by the way, if you like the content on the channel, subscribe, check it out. If you want to support me directly, you can click that join button. You get like a badge on your comments, and I always try to reply to every single comment that someone who's a member of the channel posts. So yeah, it's just kind of like a Twitch subscription, basically, is the most common, most well-known sort of equivalent. So if you want to support me directly, I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you. Okay, let's go in a little bit of a different direction here then. We've talked about champions that are boosting up your speed. Let's go in a very different direction and talk about one of my most wanted legendaries. It's Kantra the Cyclone. I believe she was actually a fusion from back before I even played the game. But she's really badass, really badass. So first of all, accuracy in all battles. We know that is good and solid. She's got amazing defensive stats, really good resistance accuracy as well. Bit slow, but that's okay. But yeah, we know that she's a tank of a champion. What does she do that's so cool? Because she is very unique, guys. Very unique. She's going to excel, by the way, in Doom Tower and in Hydra. No escape or passive. Check this out. Decreases each enemy's accuracy by 10 for each debuff they're under. This champion gets 4% less damage for each debuff on her attacker. Heals her every time a debuff expires on an enemy. She can provoke enemies if they have 5 or more debuffs at the start of this champion's turn. And she can place debuffs on weak hits. So Kantra, what a passive. This is incredible. You think about this in Doom Tower. Amazing, right? Decreasing where you can lay a whole bunch of debuffs on the enemy team. You decrease their accuracy so they can't control you. You think about like those Torment waves, for example. Boom. Really decreases accuracy and keeps your team safe. She takes less damage. She's healing up. She can start provoking the enemy team. Fantastic. And yeah, she doesn't care about affinity. She can still place her debuffs. When this comes into Hydra, this becomes exceptionally good, right? Decreasing their accuracy for every debuff they're under. Amazing. Really lock down the Head of Mischief. Stop him stealing your stuff as much. You know, you get 5 debuffs on him. That's minus 50 accuracy. That's a big deal to stop him stealing your debuffs. She's obviously going to be super tanky because of this. Provoke does nothing. And then this is super cool for Hydra, placing debuffs on weak hit. So straight up, it helps her ignore the affinity stuff. That's good. But also think about it. Poison Cloud. What does Poison Cloud do? It forces all of your attacks to be weak hits. She says, I don't care. I'm putting my debuffs on through Poison Cloud anyway. Really cool. Then check out her A2, Chaos Tempest. 3-turn cooldown when booked. Attacks all enemies 3 times. And each hit has a 50 bucks up to a 75% chance of placing one of the following debuffs for 2 turns. Block buffs, decrease attack, decrease speed, weaken, decrease accuracy, or heal reduction. And she does it AoE. She doesn't care about the affinity, doesn't care. She's going to put the debuffs no matter what. And is just going to put 3, potentially 3 of these buffs at random on the enemy team. Amazing. Again, you think about Hydra, you think about Doom Tower, block buffs, decrease. These are the buffs that you want. Heal reduction is the only one that's not amazing for Hydra, but it can be very good for Doom Tower. You think about those Sifi waves, for example. Sifi putting out tons of passive healing becomes very difficult to kill something like Rotos. She comes in, positive affinity even to Rotos, putting out the block buffs, heal reduction, helping you kill those Sifis, decrease speed. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, and obviously the exact sort of buffs that you want for Hydra. Decreasing speed, accuracy, blocking their buffs. Amazing. Super good. Then her A1, double hitter. Each hit has a 40 bucks to a 60% chance of stealing a random buff from the target. So yeah, again, an amazing A1 for that Hydra. Just removing some of those buffs. So good. So yeah, I think Kantra, she's super underrated. I've actually got comments from people in the past saying, dude, check out Kantra and Doom Tower. Could you do a guide on her? Could you show her off? I would love to. I don't have her though, but I really want her. I think she's a beast of a champion. Really, really cool. And does not get talked about enough. For the next champion then, you can see that Hydra is very much the theme of a lot of these, and I think this guy's really come into it due to Hydra, and I'd say he's probably a Hydra only champion. I probably wouldn't be rushing to use him much anywhere else, but it's Lord Chamfort. What does Lord Chamfort do that's so cool? Well, what he does is he helps you deal with that Head of Mischief. Helps you deal with the Head of Mischief, and he gives you some of that speed control that I've talked about as being so important. So his passive is very cool. Thorn Sphere, 1 turn cooldown. when it's booked up at the start of each turn. That's why you need to book it. Gives him a shield equal to 20% of his max HP for 2 turns. What is interesting about this is that the Head of Mischief always targets the champion that has the most buffs. Well, he gives himself 1 extra buff every turn. So if you don't have shield buffs on your other champions, or again, because he's very tanky, he's got a lot of max HP, he'll get a big shield, and your damage dealers will probably get their shields knocked off pretty quick. But you can potentially organize it so that, yeah, he will have the most buffs. So very often he will be the target of Head of Mischief, which means that if you build his resistance high enough, then he can just resist those turn meter steals. He can resist the buff steals, and it makes your run much easier. Now, on top of that, he also places the small version of decreased speed for 1 turn whenever an enemy attacks this champion. Now, that is very, very nice as well, because in the Hydra, you really want decreased speed on, and so many of them are doing AoE attacks. So this is a very consistent source of decreased speed. It's the small version, but that's still really good. When you consider like pushing up into Brutal or Nightmare, where these Hydra heads have over 200 speed, you're effectively reducing their speed by, a flat 30, maybe even 40 speed. That's a pretty big deal. That's really good for an easy, consistent, passive way to do it. Now, here's the thing. He obviously needs accuracy to do this, and he needs accuracy for the rest of his kit, but we want him with really high resistance so he can resist the Head of Mischief. Well, good news. He brings another amazing debuff here with Earthshaker, 3-turn cooldown. It's an AoE attack that will place decrease accuracy and decrease attack for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. And this is what really brings that together and makes his passive really pop off, because you get decrease accuracy on that Head of Mischief, and then suddenly the resistance that you need to not get your buff stolen becomes that much lower. And in fact, it becomes very feasible to build the appropriate amount of resistance, not only on Lord Chamfort, but on a lot of your other champions as well. Decrease accuracy, I think, has been the most underrated debuff for the Hydra. Lady Kimmy brings it as well, by the way, though obviously she's well known as being insane. But yeah, Chamfort coming in. The decrease attack as well also helps you survive against the Head of Blight, the head of Wrath, the Head of Wrath, who hit you really, really hard. So it gives you that bonus too. Also makes it very easy to resist the provokes, to resist the poisons. So fantastic. It's much safer to bring decreased accuracy than it is to bring block debuffs for you, because block debuffs, if it gets stolen, you're up shit creek. It's really, really bad. Decreased accuracy though, and then you just resist the debuffs. Much better, much better. So a very, very cool thing here. His A1 has a 45% chance to put decreased defense for 2 turns, so very unreliable, but an okay little bonus. And yeah, so that's what he's doing. I think very simple. Gives you decreased speed, can tank that Head of Mischief, and really decrease its accuracy and decrease attack. Really good debuffs, really good control for that Hydra. So yeah, Chamfort, very, very strong as well. And then for the final champion, I'm actually blanking. Oh my god, I don't remember. I forgot the final one. I got so caught up, I forgot. I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to rack my brains and figure it out. Okay, I remembered. We're saved. Hooray. So the one I want to talk about was actually a champion that impressed me incredibly when I was doing the Hydra account takeover last weekend, and that's Gerptuk Mossbeard. So this guy is probably well known as being a bit of a meme champion, right? He's the champion you use, like Hell Hades and stuff will use it in those damage videos to really up the damage of everyone because of his passive, where allies under poison debuffs do more damage for every poison on them. So that's cool. But there's so much in his kit that's actually incredible, and I think he's definitely in contention for being the best by perhaps even a good margin. The best block buffs champion for that Hydra boss. I was super impressed by this guy. First of all, 50 resist in all battles aura. That is very nice. And he comes in with 50 resistance himself. So very, very good. Solid base stats too. This is already putting us in that we can just resist the Head of Mischief, which we want to do. But then check this out. So his block buffs move, right, bucks up to 100% chance to put block buffs on all enemies for 2 turns. This is not an attack. So again, this will not weak hit. He does not weak hit. Goes on to everyone regardless of affinity. Goes through the poison cloud. So very, very nice. It also puts some mini poison debuffs on your entire team, and they can't be blocked or resisted. So you got some of those small debuffs on your team, which makes it kind of scary. You kind of go, I don't know, poisoning my own team, that seems really bad. It's actually really good. Let's go to his passive. So number 1, when you're under poison, you do 7.5% more damage for every poison debuff on you. So he comes in and he's giving you like 22.5, is it? More damage from those 3 debuffs. Pretty nice. Goes up to a maximum of 30%. Applies to all of their skills. Fantastic. And here's the thing. You go up against the Head of Blight, and the Head of Blight is also putting poisons on you. So that Head of Blight, the poisons he puts on you, just ups your damage, potentially up to 30% more damage on everyone, on everything, thanks to Head of Blight. Thank you, Head of Blight. Welcome to the team. But check this out. Not only does he do this, upping your damage, but this is insane for Hydra. Increases each ally's resistance by 15 for each poison debuff on them. And this can just keep stacking and stacking and stacking. If you have enough poisons, that is. But he straight up gives you 45 more resistance from that. And he gives you 50 resistance with his aura if you want to use him for that. And he has 50 resistance baseline. You start adding on your Great Hall. If you have any faction guardians, if you have any resistance gear, he can help scale the resistance of your team super high. You put him with someone like Rector Drath, who gives you, again, another 50 resistance if you're under Perfect Veil, and she gives you Perfect Veil. You can start getting your team's resistance super high and just straight up resisting all the debuffs the enemy are trying to put on you, resisting Head of Mischief. That is really good. That's really, really good. Not only that, let's check out his A1. Double hitter puts a continuous heal buff for a turn on all allies under poison debuffs. This is a really good A1 because he puts out the poisons himself. Head of Blight puts out poisons, and then every time he A1s, he puts a continuous heal on every single ally that has a poison debuff on, and that can potentially be extended by masteries and whatnot. So he actually churns out a ton of healing. He makes your team super safe. Right? That, yeah, okay, you're taking a small bit of damage from the poisons, but he's more than compensating for that with his healing. He's giving you tons of resistance, upping your damage. Spicy, really good. And then check out his A2. Books to a 2-turn cooldown. Druidic Boon removes all debuffs except poison debuffs from an ally. And again, we're totally fine with that. That's cool. Keep that bonus resistance, bonus damage. Right. Then he heals them for 30% of their max HP and gives them a shield equal to 20% of their max HP for 2 turns. Fantastic, right? So you put him in there with a squishy damage dealer, so like a, Trunda obviously stands out, or Royal Guard, someone like that. Or you put him in, maybe your Reviver, your Arbiter, she's very quick, but maybe she's a bit squishy. It's hard to keep her alive. Gerptuk comes in, and every 2 turns, he can do a massive boost to a single champion and potentially save them from a ton of damage. So really, really good as well. And again, when you are playing it on manual, you can time your block buffs for the right moment, around that Head of Decay cleanse, and then you can just be pumping out continuous heals, loads of heals on your team, and then when someone needs that individual attention, then you can step in with Gerptuk and give them that single target heal. So yeah, wow, I was so impressed by Gerptuk. I did not even really know what this guy did because I've never seen him used anywhere else, but when he steps into that Hydra ring, you compare him to something like Ugo, and sure, you lose out in the decreased defense, but he's going to out-heal her substantially. He's going to help your team stay alive, I think, more, giving you that increased resistance, upping your damage, the resistance aura. He brings so much in his kit. I was super impressed by him, and I think he's been very much underrated. So there you go. That is Gerptuk, and that is the final champion I want to talk about today. 5 champions, obviously with major focus here on the Hydra clan boss, but also some focus a bit as well on some Doom Tower, some arena usage too. Yeah, five champions that I almost never see anyone build, ever. Never see them used, ever. But I have seen them sort of slowly crop up now, recently. I've seen them being used a bit more, Golden Reaper popping up in Arena. People are building up these champions a bit more because it turns out they're actually super good. They're actually really, really good and more relevant today than ever before, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If I do release this on St. Patrick's Day, happy St. Patrick's Day from Ireland. And yeah, I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.